Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Lur Lodge.
We returned.
We have returned. We found bunnies today.
We did. If you didn't look at Mattis's TikTok today.
Yeah, I posted on TikTok. That's a rare occurrence.
It is.
I did it, though. I did it twice. One of them has bunnies.
One of it.
I don't know if you can see the bunnies in the first one.
Oh, got
You can
it.
definitely see the bunnies in the first one. I caught him carrying rabbits. One of them took it very well. The other one was a little bit screamy about the whole ordeal.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't know that bunnies could make sound, let alone that kind of a screech.
Yeah, I did not know that they made that specific sound.
Yeah.
It sounded like it thought it was dying. I told Aiden, I was like, hey, hang on, don't have make it have a heart attack.
Yeah. Well, and then it was fine.
And it was fine.
And then it went right back into the little hole. And then 5 minutes later, after he went to go to a doctor's appointment, it decided to run right back out to, like, over to me.
Yep.
And then just sit by a wall.
I think it just wanted to spend time with you.
I think it did. And now I had to go be a good mother and find a bunch of dead grass and put it on it so that a hawk didn't come by and get it.
Yeah,
But
they're apparently at that stage where they're almost ready to be on their own. They're still small, but they're like fully furred and they got their eyes open and whatnot. So
yeah.
it's all going well. It's all good in the hood. The hood being our front yard.
I'm not going to lie, the amount of times, I meant to bring this up earlier, but the number of times you said, I can't even remember the word now. It's like Winnie or Willow or whatever the hell it was.
Warren,
that's it. I had never heard that term before today.
Yeah, rabbit warren.
I always thought it was just like a rabbit hole or like, well, yeah, because the term is down the rabbit hole, but you know.
I think rabbit hole is a term. I think down the rabbit hole is a thing because of, was it Lewis C. Carroll? Is that who wrote Alice in Wonderland?
That sounds right.
Through the Looking Glass, all that. Yeah, so the proper term, I believe, is a rabbit warren to describe their burrow. I'm just glad that you didn't kill any of them with the lawnmower, to be honest.
You and me both. I did a pass.
Uh-huh.
And
You're like looking for rabbit.
Well, no, that's the thing is because like I did a pass and I was going pretty quick pace. And thankfully, it looked like I went like really close to the warren, not over it. But like on Friday, the grass was like 1.5 feet tall.
Yeah,
Like,
we have not been doing a good job landscaping.
Well, to be fair, we were gone for a week.
That's fair too.
Yeah. But so I took the weed whacker, got really low with all of it, and then I think with all of the grass that I had cut on Friday, a rabbit must have come, dug that hole.
That's what I think happened.
Used all of that, dead stuff. But anyways, going by, and then all of a sudden on the return pass, I see this one bunny is just like freaking out on its back, and like over on the like a couple feet away on the other side that I had already previously mowed, and then I saw what I realized was the warren afterward, and then I saw the other one like 4 feet ahead of that one, and I was like, "Where did you come from? Are you okay? Like, why are you freaking out?" Because it would freak out and then stop. And then slowly roll over onto its like stomach, do a couple hops, roll over accidentally, and then freak out again. And I was like,
I didn't see this part. I walked up to the studio. And I think I said something like, "Yeah, those are rose bushes, bud."
yeah.
'Cause he was just staring intently at one of our rose bushes.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Shh." And he had his AirPods in, so I was thinking he's on the phone having like an important call or something like that. And I walk up and he's like, bunnies. Like, oh, bunnies.
Yeah.
Like there were in fact rabbits.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a baby rabbit up close in a while. Oh my God, they're cute.
They are absolutely adorable.
They're adorable creatures.
Yeah. I was honored that we were able to help them and guide them and
Yeah, they were
hold them a little bit.
They were good little guys. I hope they survive.
That is now the second wild animal that I've had to help out of an interesting situation.
What was the first one?
A shark.
I'm not even going to ask the question. I don't want to know. I don't want to know how you ended up in a position freeing a shark.
Well, it's really simple. Someone caught a shark on the beach, and they let their like at the time like 9 or 10-year-old son try and like put it back into the waves, and then the child got scared. It was like,
oh, so it was a little shark.
Yeah, it was like 3 feet at most. But the kid got scared, and then the shark was swimming along, and you know how they swim like that. Well, it was on a turn and a wave hit it and knocked it over to, like parallel to the beach,
Mm-hmm.
and it was heading towards a big group of like people swimming.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're not in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's just going to get scared.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a prime opportunity for me to have a great excuse to go grab a shark. So that's what I did. And then I ran out, put my hand under the belly, grabbed it like at the very tip of the tail, turned it around, got it going out deeper into the water. And then once I felt it start to like really move, I was like, all right, go ahead, buddy. And then everybody came back like I just like, walked on water. And I was like, guys, it was like, it would have given me a paper cut.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to hold it.
Yeah. And that shark was Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
It felt like the right time for that kind of joke. I don't know.
Fair enough.
But anyway, we're not here to talk about sharks and bunnies. We're here to talk about Thelma Pauline Melton, who... It's been a while, guys. It's been a while since we looked at a missing 411 case, and I went, huh? And then it happened again this week. I know these are both from the 80s, so this is a weird period. So I don't know about you.
Mm-hmm.
My perception of the 80s, growing up in the 2000s, was that it was very similar to the world we grew up in, just we had cell phones and the internet. Like, it didn't feel like now I look around at the world and I'm like, okay, this is not the world my parents grew up in, because if, everything's online now. But 20 years ago, you and I growing up, people still went to malls. You still had, massive shopping centers. People still did a lot of community things.
Wait, hang on a second. Did you say 20 years ago?
Yeah.
My brother in Christ. The 80s were 40 years ago now.
I'm talking about when we were kids.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, what I'm saying is, like, when I was a younger teenager, we'd go walk around the mall just like our parents did 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Nowadays, not so much. Kids are more likely to hang out online and play video games together and do stuff in Discord servers, and that's fine. But, I think it's a much different world now than it was 20 years ago, and more so than it was 40 years ago. But so for me, like, I look at the 80s and I'm like, oh, that's modern America. That's the beginning of the America I recognize. Obviously, the internet comes along in the 90s, and it grows in the 2000s. We get social media and all that, but reading newspapers from the 80s, I am made aware of how different the 80s were.
Mm-hmm.
And, today you've got online news. If somebody gets something wrong, it very quickly gets corrected and the article is updated. That doesn't happen in 80s newspapers. So as I'm reading through the newspapers for both the Michael Reel case, which is coming out this Friday, and the Thelma Pauline Melton case, which came out last Friday, I'm seeing contradictions. I am seeing things that are claimed in one paper and never mentioned in another one. I am seeing things like a 5'11" tall woman who weighs 180 pounds being described as heavyset. Like, just things that you don't see anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a weird struggle, because I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is much closer to today than the 60s, than the 50s, than the 40s, the other time periods we're looking at. And yet the journalism is lacking. And it's frustrating having a time period that feels like it should be so familiar and accessible be totally opaque, because some journalists basically, got the basics of the story and then reported it. Because back then, there weren't a lot, you didn't have as much investigative journalism, at the granular level that I feel like we have today. Like, now we fact check everything. Back then, I feel like it was a lot of, I'm going to report the story to report the story.
Yeah. Well, there were not a lot of ways for people in a position of power, even low-scale power, to be audited by the public in that sense. For every story that was put out in a newspaper, all that really came down to it was essentially whether or not it was successful in the paper in terms of, like, you hit your word limit, and are there any typos? Because beyond that, generally, especially in a local paper, it's not going to matter that much.
And that's the thing. Every single one of these cases, with rare exception, is really only reliably reported in the local papers. So I'm looking at, like, the Elizabethton Star, the Knoxville News Sentinel, the Bristol Herald Courier. I'm getting very familiar with local Tennessee newspapers, by the way. I think I know more of them than I know about local papers here. I definitely know more of them than I know local papers
I was gonna
here.
say, do we even have any local papers here?
Inquirer.
Oh, there is a Phoenixville paper.
There is?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it or like seen anything about it in a while.
The newspaper office is now a coffee shop, so where is it?
Probably all online.
Yeah, true. My point in this weird kind of like waffling, wandering diatribe about how the news has changed is that looking at the Polly Melton case, I think if it happened today, it's solvable. Back in 1983, I don't know that it was. Just because of the etiquette, the reach that papers had. This woman, think about trying to disappear and reinvent yourself in 2024. It's basically impossible. You need so much paperwork. Even the witness protection program fails sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the government hiding you from everybody, including, in some cases, the government.
It's funny because you watch like movies or television shows that are set in a previous time, especially like early 1900s or beyond that. Mm-hmm. And you think about how, the trope of somebody moving to a new town to start a new life. It's like, oh yeah, you can't do that even in a new country now.
Well, they used to, I forget exactly what the joke is from, but they used to walk into banks, shoot off a Tommy gun, rob them, then go, you just got done in by Toothless Joe and the gang. Like, they were announcing who they were as robbers, and they still couldn't catch these people unless they caught them red-handed. The world has changed quite a bit, and, looking at the Polly Melton case, that was part of the hard thing about researching it now. I have to take off those blinders. I have to take myself out of the 2024 mindset and put myself in the 1980s mindset, because the way this case goes, and we had people in the comments who were like, well, maybe, she was really unhappy with her marriage. And it's like, this was her third marriage. Her first two husbands had died. Based on what I was seeing about this marriage, it was really it seems like it was more of a friendship and companionship kind of marriage than it was a romantic, erotic kind of marriage, Like if I were to, God forbid, have to get remarried in my 70s, I don't think I'd be necessarily out there looking for a hot 26-year-old.
I would hope not.
Yeah, like that's just not. Because that is not what you want at that age.
I don't know. There are a lot of billionaires that do.
Yeah, there are. But I feel like for normal people who, have normal wants and needs.
For those who are not emotionally stunted at some level.
Yeah. I don't think that at that point in my life, that's what I'd want. That seems like something that, I'm sure there's some, quote unquote benefits to it for guys like, God, what's his face? The Belichick, Bill Belichick, who's dating like a 24-year-old model or something. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think she's getting a ring. He's not getting any more.
I was going to say he's not getting any more either.
But when I look at what was said, this guy was her dad's friend. This guy was part of a community she had been a part of for 20 years. Mm. It seems to me like this was a marriage out of a need for companionship. And I did see stuff in Baldwin's book that was like, oh, even at her age, she had been quite a looker when she was younger, and her friends did talk about her getting attention from men. Like, she doesn't cite any of it.
I didn't think about this until now, but was there any relevance of her religious background?
I don't believe so. This was not one of the cases where there was a ton of stuff mentioned about religion. She was Christian. She was active at church, but in a charity capacity.
Okay. The main reason I ask is because I know, like my grandmother, for instance, in the, I guess it was the 50s or the 60s, mm-hmm. Her husband at the time had was very unfaithful to her.
Okay.
To a level which it was repetitive, and she was like, "You're done."
Mm-hmm.
And
you're done.
You're done. But she went to try and get a divorce at the time.
By the way, is this the one who predicted the death of Bobby Kennedy?
No, different one.
Okay, different grandmother.
Different grandmother. Yeah. But anyway, so she went to go get a divorce, but even up here in the north at that time, and granted, this is a couple decades prior to this, but she was essentially all but excluded from all of her friend groups and
Really?
church. Yeah.
Was she Catholic?
Catholic, yeah.
Okay. So Thelma was, it's unclear exactly what denomination, but she was going to Presbyterian and Baptist churches.
Okay. So they're a lot less crazy about that.
I don't know for certain. I know that in Catholicism, you're not supposed to get remarried if you get divorced. You're not supposed to even get divorced.
Well, that's the thing is, so
But-
she wasn't even trying to get remarried at that point.
Yeah.
She was just trying to get out of an extremely unhealthy relationship or marriage. And yeah, she was essentially, like totally cast out from her church at that point. Yeah. And so that was the main reason I asked, because maybe, possibly, if she did do this marriage essentially out of a sense of companionship, but she found someone,
Yeah.
Maybe there was that element to it, but I think it's less likely because of it being the 80s. But then again, it's the South.
Yeah. So there were several mentions in the newspapers. I didn't bring this up in the video, but there were several mentions in the newspapers of how police considered that she had absconded on her own or with somebody she knew, but they checked it out and nobody she knew was missing either. So if this was her running off with somebody, it's somebody nobody else knew about. And it's also just a weird time and a place to do it. Because here's the thing that it's hard to explain in the course of the video, but in order for her to do that, she would have had to walk on a well-used, wide-open trail for another mile to get out of the woods. Or she would have had to depart off to a totally different trail that she wasn't familiar with, and we know she didn't like going on unfamiliar trails because everybody who knew her was like, no, she only likes this trail.
Well, and really quick, another addition that also adds to the fact that it would have been a really weird time to do it is that she was with other friends.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you say, I'm going to go off for a hike alone, I'll be back in 2 hours. Okay, different. She deliberately went with 2 people. She did not bring her cigarettes, even though she was a 2-pack-a-day smoker. She did not bring her medication, so far as I could tell, even though she was prescribed Valium.
A lot of details that indicate that she was not planning to not come back.
Yeah, and you add on to that fact that she had put spaghetti sauce on before she left. I mean, all of that would suggest she intended to return. You could say that, maybe her leaving the spaghetti sauce on was, a diversion, so people would assume she wasn't leaving. But why not take the cigarettes? Why not take the Valium?
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
So thoughts on a lot of people's suggestions of the restroom necessity?
I see where people are coming from with it. It was only another mile to actual restrooms. Even if she really had to go, what 58-year-old woman is going to be embarrassed to look at her 2 friends who have known her for 20 years and say, I really have to go. I'm going to step off the trail for a second. Also, you don't have to get that. We've been there. We haven't been on this specific trail. We'll be going back, but we've been there. You don't have to go far off the trail to get out of sight.
Yeah. What time of year was this again?
September.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's still plenty of foliage.
Even in November, it was thick out there. You could maybe go 10 yards off the trail and you were going to be completely obscured. So yeah, it's possible that she stepped off the trail to use the restroom, but that doesn't explain why she wasn't found. If she was within 10 yards of the trail, she would have been found. Her friend thought maybe she had a stroke or an aneurysm and that caused her to wander. But the thing is, with how dense that foliage is, it would be hard for her to get far, especially after a stroke or an aneurysm. I'm not saying it's impossible, but then there's the fact that they brought dogs out there, and if she was dead, the dogs probably would have scented her if she was anywhere near the trail. But on the other hand, had she gone all the way to the end of the trail, had she gone all the way to the end of the trail, she would have been in a campground where there probably would have been other people. Granted, it was September. It's not going to be as popular, but Amanda's family is going on a camping trip in a state park this weekend. Like mid-September, same time of year. It's even warmer down there. Yeah, chances are, in my opinion, that there would have been people there, which is why I'm also struggling to comprehend the kidnapping aspect. Because what? She didn't scream? She didn't fight? This is a big woman. And if you're a kidnapper, there's basically two kinds of kidnappers. Opportunistic and people who know you really well. It wasn't anybody who knew her really well because nobody else was missing. If it was an opportunistic thing, 5'11" tall woman, really not gonna be your go-to. I mean, what does that offer you? First of all, you've got to fight because that's a big person. Then on top of that, what's the goal? Organs? She's old. Not old, but too old for organ harvesting. She's too old for trafficking. She's too old for most things that a nefarious actor would want to do. So what would be the motive to kidnap her? There wouldn't be one. If it was somebody she knew really well, then it would probably be somebody who had something against her, but they never thought to investigate that. And me, 40 years later, I can't look at it and be like, there's a chance somebody could have wanted to hurt her, so that was probably it.
Yeah, and on the off chance that it just so happened to be some random serial killer in the woods, which because that happens so often, where are the connected cases?
Exactly, because as we've looked through, these cases don't seem to be connected by anything except location.
Yeah,
we have people from as young in the park itself. We now have people that we've looked at from the ages of 6, almost 7 to 58. That's not a pattern. That's not it's not a profile. That's just people going missing. And a lot of these people have gone missing for reasons we could explain. What's super strange about it is when there is somebody who goes missing and isn't found, what have we got? We've got 7-year-old boy. We have 16-year-old girl, and we have 58-year-old woman. Granted, all of those people are in the span of 12 years, but none of them had anything in common. The one thing that I thought was interesting was the claim that she had diamond jewelry on. Now that could be enough to motivate somebody else who's on the trail to do something to her. But then the question becomes, how did that person get it done and get her out of there before her friends caught up?
I honestly, and I'm only half joking with this, I genuinely find that less likely than a random serial killer waiting in the woods for someone to show up. The idea that somebody outside of a campground on a nature trail would be just essentially like, oh yeah, that person's got jewelry on.
Right?
I'm going to go for that here, of all places.
Just doesn't make any sense.
No, none whatsoever.
So yeah, I looked at this case and I was like, what reason could there be? What could have happened? And I'm at a loss. I mean, maybe the only thing that I could see her doing would be diverting off of the trail she was on. But to do that, she would have been going on to markedly different trails. These weren't trails that looked exactly like the Deep Creek Trail that she could have easily made a wrong turn. These were trails that were not paved. They were not gravel. They were just walking trails. There's a horse trail there now that doesn't appear to have been there back then. Maybe she went up there, but if she had died along that trail, you would kind of expect that, her body would be found near that trail, and it wasn't. Dogs couldn't find her. It's not super surprising that the dogs couldn't catch a scent, on the trail. It's gravel and it's, she's wearing shoes. But if she was off the trail because she fell, you'd expect a scent. Dogs aren't infallible. They mess up sometimes. They don't succeed sometimes, but I just have such a hard time that there's no sign of a struggle, no sign of her leaving the trail. There never was a bear cache found. There was never any sign of bears in the area that day. There were definitely bears in the park that day, but nobody saw one near her. I wish Juanita Baldwin was reliable, because then there might actually be a resolution to it. Somebody in the comments was like, maybe she did, want to run away. I mean, after all, there's all the evidence of it in Baldwin's book, but Baldwin's not a reliable source. As we looked at in the Abe Ramsey case, it seems like she just made half of it up, because a lot of the stuff she said was not even in the earlier account that we looked at that couldn't be traced back to its original source.
Yeah, so when I was looking for an image of her to use for the video, I stumbled upon some information about her in terms of the fact that like most of her writing, she wrote like I think over
Juanita Baldwin?
yeah, she wrote over like 24 books, and they're all of the like local legends
Yeah.
variety. They're in no ways journalistic or academic. So I think for her, her mission was probably just telling interesting stories about the
That's what I
areas,
think
whether or
too.
not they were relevantly or relatively like accurate.
Yeah. Which bugs me. These are real people. It's one thing if it's like they say back in the 1870s that there was an old hermit who lived up by Klingman's Dome, and one day a girl whose name has been lost to time vanished near. Like, that's one thing. Or if it's long enough ago, 200, 300 years, okay, sure. Now we can talk about this a little bit. We can maybe, not worry so much about the reliability of the story if the only goal is to tell a fun ghost story.
Mhm.
Yeah,
if it's essentially the equivalent of a campfire tale.
like the Sam McGee thing that Mike told us while we were on our trip in Alaska. That was a story that's probably 100, 120 years old. I forget exactly when he said it was, but it's so old now, and it's probably not even remotely true that it doesn't matter. But when that person still has, or at least has the potential to have living family members, she was 58, 40 years ago. That's 2 generations.
Yeah.
Like, if she'd had kids, they would have kids that are our age.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, in addition to that, if your goal is just to tell a story about one of these old figures, okay, well then that's what it is. And you know that. Like
And at least put it in the book.
Yeah.
Like, these stories are a collection of mysterious legends from this area as told by the people who live there. Now that's okay. I went down and I asked these people what they remember, and this is what they told me. Okay, cool. That's good. Don't present it as factual. Right? Like, or if you're gonna involve both in the story, say, give it footnotes. Basically be like, yeah, this came from this newspaper or this National Park Service report. Not, this thing happened. Her friends said this to her.
Do you think this is another indication or instance of the timing? And by the timing, I mean of the time it occurred, where, these kind of necessities or courtesies or etiquette of storytelling like this loosely journalistic style is a result of now having a lot more stringent rules as compared to back in like the 80s and before that.
So this book came out, the first edition came out in I think the first edition came out in 2001 and there was a revised edition in 2006. I think I have the revised edition. I don't think it's necessarily that, because I see this today all the time. When I do my commentary streams on my other channel, that channel is Aiden Mattis, by the way. It's just my name. It's at the Aiden Mattis, youtube.com/at the Aiden Mattis. When I'll do commentary streams over on that channel, I will look at, true ghost stories and true skinwalker stories and things like that. I'll look into them, and you've got a lot of channels that'll have a lot of subscribers, like professional quality work like what we do. The stories are not accurate, or they're poorly sourced, or they can't be traced to any actual origin. But people tell them like they're fact. It still happens. And a lot of the time, they'll take a story about a real person, and it's not even usually the YouTuber's fault. It's usually that they read a book, took notes on the book, wrote their script for the video, and then did it. Sometimes the book's not right.
Yeah, I mean, hell, that's what we learned in our development of this channel. I mean, we followed a similar trajectory to that, and then as we went on, we were like, no, we can do better than this.
And to be clear, this isn't me attempting to call anybody specifically out. Like, this is just me saying this is what I see sometimes. There is a difference between documentary and storytelling. And I think that people just need to make it very clear when they do storytelling that they can't verify certain aspects of the story, or that, the story came from such and such place. I think at a certain point, once you got a certain following, there's probably also a responsibility to vet your sources before you make a video. But when you're smaller, when you're just getting started, it's not as big a deal. So I think I've seen a good amount of that. It's unfortunate. It bugs me a little bit. I try to politely tell people like, hey, I don't think that what you're doing there is quite right. If I feel like I have the reason to. But no, I don't think it's a recent thing. I think that I think it is the difference between storytelling and documentary. And some people don't do a good enough job of differentiating themselves between those two things. What?
I can't read this, but it's this one. It's
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yep.
That specific case actually bugs me because it's not quite the same. Because he claims to do original research.
Yeah.
I part of me is sympathetic. When the book came out, it was 2011. Internet was not as robust. This is 13 years ago. This is, I don't even know if newspapers.com existed. He probably was going into local archives and looking for stuff. I have access to much more powerful tools. And that's why I try to give some degree of leniency whenever I talk about those specific instances when he got something wrong. For those who are, frequent flyers to the channel, I think you know who I'm talking about. I mean, for example, there was Bobby Biza. This is a case where I very vehemently said I can't put the blame on him for this because the information that led to people understanding what actually happened to Bobby did not come out until years after the book was published. I think he mentioned that case for the first time in 2018. The information that was relevant to Bobby didn't come out until I think 2021. So there was no way for him to know for sure, what had really happened. But then there's cases like Aaron Hedges where he deliberately left out the fact that the man was detoxing from alcoholism and also drinking while also taking benzodiazepines.
And I can't remember, was that something that he was aware of that just he didn't think it was important?
Oh yeah, the sheriff confirmed it to me that he told him about that. That bothers me. The stuff about Charles McCullers, about how his pants were found still sitting on a log with his socks inside them and the feet bones were still in there. Not real. Not there. Not a thing. He claims some ranger said that to him. But who? Which ranger? Like, can I go talk to this person?
Why was it not documented?
Yeah, and the other frustrating thing is like when Michael Bouchard went to talk to Dwight McCarter, I do feel like Bouchard slightly misrepresented exactly what Politis said in Eastern United States during the Dennis Martin case. But he told Dwight, hey, this other researcher mentioned, that you said it was wild people. And McCarter was like, no, I didn't. What? There were a few things that were said that witnesses kind of like, huh? For example, Agent Jim Reich committed suicide, not in the immediate aftermath of the case, just later on. And it's brought up like, oh, why did the lead FBI agent on the case commit suicide? Well, the investigative journalist or investigative reporter position would be, I'm going to go talk to his family. That didn't happen. Bouchard did, and what he was told is that there were a slew of legitimate non-Bigfoot-related reasons that Jim Reich committed suicide. He didn't go into detail, but it was clear that, that it wasn't this case. This case did not kill him. So that, things like that bug me. The Stacey Aris camera cover thing, the lens cap, didn't find that in any contemporary reporting. None of it. In fact, the only thing I found was in the National Park Service report where there was a FOIA document. It was a letter where it was like the park superintendent writing to thank somebody for their participation, an organization for their participation. And he was like, in it, he explicitly says, no clues have been found. Not one.
Mm-hmm.
I found absolutely no evidence that a camera lens cap was found by the lake. It's not even where she said she was going. Said she was going up a ridge to take pictures of the lake. So, and there were a few things, for example, in the video we just shot, as I was reading through the source material, Missing 411, the book says that that Michael Reel said he ate breakfast with his grandfather on Saturday morning. That's a mix-up of like 3 different aspects of the story. So I struggle with that. But, going back to the case we were talking about tonight, Pauline Melton, we're going down there. We're going to go look at this trail. Obviously, it's been 40 years. It's not going to look exactly the same. But my goal is to see, is there anywhere she could have somehow stepped off? Is there anywhere that she could have gone that she would have gone missing? Because the way I'm seeing it right now, she was within a mile of the park entrance. She was within 500 yards of her friends when she was last seen. She seems to have been within 100 yards of her friends when she was last seen. She was walking a little bit fast, but how fast can a 50-year-old woman with hypertension walk? And who smokes 2 packs a day? Like, she wasn't going to outrun her friends in the long term. And they only had to cover a mile. And as they crested that hill, she should have been visible in front of them. So it sounds like she disappeared in the space of like a minute and a half and got way off into the woods to the point where dogs couldn't find her. Somebody said alien abduction, UFO. And to be honest, I sat there and I thought about it. And the only thing I could say that was like, okay, aside from me not necessarily believing in alien abductions, let's take my personal beliefs out of this. Say alien abductions are possible and are a real thing. Nobody saw a spaceship. There was no flying saucer up there. She wasn't that far away. Like, if a spaceship came in and picked her up off the ground and took her into the sky, that would have been seen. This happened in broad daylight. So, no spaceship. Nobody saw a car come pick her up. She wasn't found anywhere in the vicinity of the trail for a mile at least in either direction. In one direction, there's a creek that you can really only cross at a bridge. It's called Deep Creek for a reason. She wasn't found in the creek. She wasn't found on the other side of the creek. She wasn't found anywhere between the ridge and the trail. And as far as anybody knew, she was in a perfectly fine state of mind. Yeah, let's say that she did intend to disappear. Maybe her friends would have kept that secret. Maybe they would have lied about what happened. But I have no evidence that they did. So I'm not going to make that point. I'm not going to make that claim and say, oh, well, her friends probably just lied. They knew she wanted to get out of there. And I mean, I think about how cruel that would have been to the people who cared about her, too. Not just her husband, her father, her sister, like all of her friends who lived in that campground. All of these people were hurt by her disappearance. You'd have to be a really cold person to not care. And from everything I read about Polly, she was not a cold person. She was apparently, a lot of the... Juanita Baldwin said that she had become very close with her dad in recent years. I didn't find that in the papers. But her dad was sick. Her sister seemed deeply concerned about this. Maybe her sister also knew. Maybe her sister and her friends were in on something. But again, I have no evidence. So I look at this and like, yeah, there are possible explanations here. But they involve accusing other people of dishonesty when I have no reason to do that. So I can't go to those things. If it turned out that Trula and the other Pauline were openly lying, okay, she probably ran off. But they helped search. They talked to the papers. They said they think she had an aneurysm and walked off and was still in the park. The only people who really thought she was out of the park were the Rangers and the sheriff. It's from what I understand, Bryson City in the 80s wasn't nearly as safe as it is now. So maybe there was more crime going on in the woods. Maybe somebody doing nefarious things within a mile of the entrance was more plausible at the time. But from what I've seen of this case, there is not a ton that makes sense without making further assumptions. Mm-hmm. And I don't like to make further assumptions unless I have a reason to. So I don't even know how to react anymore. Like, I'm so used to it turning out to be nothing that when I find something that isn't nothing, I don't know what to do about it.
Well, I think the biggest issue with this one is that it's It's turning out not to be nothing primarily because of the lack of information.
Yeah. Which is not necessarily the case in next week's video.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, you were here. We just shot it 3 hours ago.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
That's fair. Okay, I see what you're doing. Okay, I got you.
you.
In this one, it's an issue of it's not an issue of missing information. It's an issue of contradictory information.
Mm-hmm.
And contradictory information coming from the same people over and over.
Also just weird information.
General weirdness, too. Yeah, like... There were a number of occasions where, as we were shooting today, Aiden looked at me and went, "I'm sorry, what?" Which usually happens at least once, but not like 3 to 4 times.
Yeah.
The Michael Reel case is strange. And of course, then I hit you at the end with the little like, and then it happened a week later.
Yeah.
Because, even if you write this off, I will say I have a theory. About what happened here, but I want to take a look first. I want to see if I can find anything. If anybody's familiar with the Smokies area and is into plants, I need information about if there are any deeply hallucinogenic berries. Like berries that would send you on a trip.
Yeah.
Like not funny colors, like full auditory and visual hallucinations. Because that would be relevant
to
what's going on. There are some other things in the Larry Davenport case that we're going to be looking at this week that also make me scratch my head, but I haven't looked at it in depth yet, so I won't go there. What were you going to say?
Here's your response. Faith just said, nope.
Okay, well, Faith is pretty familiar with the area. So,
yeah.
No deeply hallucinogenic berries. He didn't say anything about eating mushrooms, so unless there's wild LSD growing down there, I think he probably did not have a drug-induced hallucination.
Man, I don't know what the 3-letter agencies have been up to lately.
Yeah, but that all just makes next week's case look weirder because I was really banking on the hallucinogenics.
Really?
Which isn't out of the question in this case either, because this guy's older. Like 20. I'm curious. You'll see. We'll talk about it again. We'll talk about Michael Reel and Larry Davenport very soon.
Somebody said morning glory seeds are like acid.
Morning glory? Is that a thing in the Smokies?
I don't know.
What is morning glory?
But
he didn't say anything about eating seeds either.
I think morning glory is a plant.
I think so.
Is that the flower, the yellow flower that smells like cookie dough?
No, it is. It's that.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Sassafras is an MDMA precursor?
That's true.
Y'all know a lot about this topic.
Hey, we did ask them.
That's true.
Yeah, it does grow down there, so I could see, maybe he ate seeds, but he didn't mention eating seeds.
Fair.
The older guy, I could see it being acid, but I can't see it being acid for Michael Reel, and the other explanation for his hallucinations didn't really make any sense, but I'll let people watch the video.
It is 7:47. Do we want to get into some super chats?
Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely.
All right. I'm going to hold off on Goms.
The show will, by the way, definitely be over by 8:10 because we have to go watch an Eagles game, but let's zoom through these.
Gomb gave us a good start about his Windowsy bodyguard and a long, hard day of free space. Yes, and it do be Lauren time. This will be a legacy.
Yeah.
Windowsy. We'll never escape it. Thanks for
never
reminding us
escape it. It's
consistently.
like the guy who had his cylinder stuck in an M&M's thing. You've never read the Reddit post about the guy who got his cylinder?
No,
stuck in an M&M's
no, I
tube?
know about
Mini
the
M&Ms
jar
tube?
though.
That's a different thing entirely.
I know.
Yeah, no. He was very insistent that it was just a cylinder.
Oh, I
Yeah.
do know this. Yeah. The White Trash Panda for $2 says, late and something, as usual. You guys, I love you guys anyway. LOL. Appreciate it. Jacket, who has been a member for 4 months, says,
thank
what's up, Aidens? I get to go to the Mothman Festival this weekend. I'm hyped.
Oh, hell yeah.
Have fun.
I forgot that was this weekend. I wish I'd been able to go.
Yeah, that would have been fun. We just don't keep good track of calendars.
No. We also have entirely too much going on at any given time.
We do. It's really bad. Hopefully we're going to get help with that.
We should definitely get to the Mothman exhibition exhibition, Mothman Fest next year.
We should. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be relevant.
It's funny. I was talking to Shane Cashman over at Tales from the Inverted World about this when I was down on his show a couple of months ago. And I had suggested that we do that as a joint thing. It is just as far from their studio down in West Virginia. Like, Point Pleasant is as far from their studio in West Virginia as it is from Philadelphia, time-wise.
Wow.
Yep, because they don't have I-76.
That'll do it.
So I-76 cuts a couple of hours off the drive. But yeah, it's apparently 5 hours from Philadelphia to Point Pleasant, and it's about 5 hours from wherever in West Virginia, like Charlestown area that they are, to Point Pleasant.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
That is wild. White Trash Panda back at it again for $5, saying, real talk, though, I love that you guys have a buffer before actually starting. It prevents the beginning from being cut off by pre-roll ads.
Woo!
Not going to lie.
That was not on purpose.
I was going to say, we never took that into account, but now we will.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
It's usually there because we just, aren't sure if we're ready to start at 7.
Pretty much, yeah. Audrey L. has been a member for 2 months. Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you.
Richard Davison for Canadian $13.99. Saying, thank you. Can you please look into the disappearance of Marshall Iwasa from Lethbridge, Alberta? His truck was found burnt on a logging road in British Columbia.
Well, I mean, that's obviously a, intentional disappearance. He just wanted to go for a fishing trip and, got eaten by a
been
bear.
Home in a few days?
Yeah, or something like that. I don't know. The RCMP doesn't care.
No.
Somebody did ask us to look into the Jack family disappearance. I believe that was British Columbia. I am going to look into that one. Some stuff recently came across my dash too. I haven't looked into it too deeply. Apparently, there were like 6 different First Nations, I want to say men, who have been shot by the RCMP in the last couple of months.
Whoa.
And all of them are, according to the activists, all of them are unjustified.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I haven't looked into it yet, but it would not shock me at all. The RCMP, at best, doesn't seem to care about its natives. At worst, they're actively antagonistic of them.
Mm.
So, I mean, our Amber, if you want to see what we mean, go watch the Amber Takaro video. I am actually enraged whenever I think about it, of just how poorly they handled it, because it almost seems deliberate. Now, to their credit, they're also really bad at investigating when white people go missing too. So it's not like the United States where we have missing white woman syndrome. It's up in Canada, it's, they just don't care. Like, oh, you went missing, eh? Well, that's too bad.
Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that they have such stringent informational laws in terms of the fact that, like, one thing that's going to be difficult about you looking into these cases is because the departments can't give away any of the information? Do you think
it's
if
definitely
the
harder.
State had a little bit more power, that they'd work a little harder?
I do think that is part of it, because in America, we don't always do it, but we are better about holding law enforcement's feet to the fire. They have to give us more information than they have to give you in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
There are far fewer privacy laws that can be exploited by law enforcement under the guise of protecting privacy, that in reality are just used to keep people from knowing what's going on. But yeah, I mean, we've looked at a number of cases that involved the Canadians, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police specifically, and it's been pretty abysmal every single time. Like, if I went missing in the Yukon, I would actually prefer that, like, Alaskan State Police come looking for me than that the RCMP do it. I'm serious, by the way. That's like, I don't want the RCMP in charge if I go missing.
Fair.
Because I don't think that they'll do much to help. But yeah, the Jack family, I can't remember exactly when it happened. It's on my list, though, because we're going to cover it. For those who maybe, haven't been around as long, this is one of the topics that I'm pretty passionate about. Is the missing and murdered Indigenous women, and I believe it's now being considered MMIP, missing and murdered Indigenous persons. We've got a responsibility as the stewards of this continent now. Our ancestors came in and they took it by force, and that means it's our responsibility to treat the population with honor and integrity. I don't think we're doing that in a lot of cases. I think that there are those who are trying to make it better. The United States has made great strides in the last few years, establishing a task force to actually look at it, amending laws at the state and the federal level to make it so that if somebody who is non-native and doesn't live on reservation land commits a crime on reservation land, the reservation can still prosecute them, or that the state police are required to prosecute them. Formerly, that was not the case. The movie Wind River was a huge part of getting this kind of legislation passed, getting awareness out to the public. Yellowstone has been really solid about it too. I think they've gotten a little too soapy for it to be as meaningful as it was in the first couple of seasons of the show. The prequels, however, have also been really good about it. 1883 and 1923, showing a more nuanced version of the quote unquote cowboys and Indians, Old West. So I've been happy about that. Taylor Sheridan, I think, is doing a great job giving people entertainment media that also raises awareness of this topic. So I definitely want to look into the Jack family, and I will look into, what was this case as well?
This specifically was the disappearance of Marshall Iwasa from Lethbridge, Alberta.
That does sound like a native name.
It does. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Pablo Raul Pereira gifted 5 memberships.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. JD Petty has been a member for 3 months and is saying/asking, future Weird Bibles need more comparisons of verses from the Passion Translation with more traditional translations.
What we should do is we should have people give us a verse each time, and just we can spend a whole segment making fun of the Passion Translation.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Grace P for $5 is saying, I'm also going to the Mothman Festival this weekend. We talked about him in my paranormal phenomena class. Hang on a second. Paranormal phenomena psychology class. Yeah, it's why I had to read it twice. Interesting. I would love to take a paranormal phenomena psychology class.
Where were these classes when I was in college?
Right?
Back in my day, 4 years ago, we only had classes on witchcraft.
Why were all of the psych classes I had to take basically biology classes?
Yeah, exactly. Where's my paranormal psych?
I took a psych class about the mind, sold as essentially abnormal psych, but on a slightly different
But
scale.
it's really abnormal brain anatomy.
We talked about the biology of the eye for literally the whole semester. The eye.
Just the way you said the eye.
I learned that in high school. I get it. Rods, cones, cornea, fantastic. I know this. Why was that a psychology class?
I don't know, but I've got something wrong with my cones. I can't see colors sometimes.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah. No, we didn't get paranormal psych. We had regular psych. We had witchcraft. Witchcraft class was me, 2 other dudes, and approximately 47 lesbians. It was not a sausage fest, but it was...
Careful.
It was also not a good class to meet girls in. I thought it would be a better class to meet girls in, Aiden. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah,
You
were in college.
I wasn't taking it solely for the purpose of meeting women, but there was definitely a part of my brain that was like, oh, there will be some women in witchcraft class.
And you were right.
I was right. Anyway.
We all learn.
Yeah.
Next, Trains and Stuff for $2.23. Love the specificity. Saying, and you didn't make rabbit stew? Shame on you.
I'm not going to make rabbit stew out of the baby rabbits we found outside.
Yeah, it ain't happening.
Also, Ella is not allowed at the studio until we figure out where all of the rabbits are. Okay, good. No, I know. I wasn't... I didn't think she was here or anything. I was just like, by the way... Neither dog. Yeah. Archie, I feel like, would probably just be more confused than anything. Ella would try to eat them. Yeah, definitely would bat at it. When Archie gets confused about something small, he just kind of gives like a whap. Yeah, probably. She'd be very gentle.
Yeah. But still no dog.
Rabbit probably would not be happy, though.
No, definitely not.
Okay, continue.
Audrey L for 199 saying, when do we get Captain Cat back? That's a great question for Cat. I did see her answer that earlier on, saying that she'll be back sometime soon. I don't know when that entails, but we'll find out.
You got to get her a pirate outfit.
Yeah, we were just figuring out what we were going to do for Halloween this year.
I don't know. Do we host a party?
That's what I was asking Kat. Nobody knows. She's like,
we got the space for it.
Kat's like, I'd do a game night at her place. This is not a topic for a podcast.
I don't know.
Killing the official data for 556. Love the specificity, sir. Saying, don't let me forget I have something for you too.
Oh, well, that's even more threatening since you're basically downstairs.
The Fed's here.
The Fed is in the building.
Gallius Rex for 1999. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Saying, howdy guys. Been a fan for a long time. Unfortunately, never been able to stay for a live stream because of my work schedule, but I'd like to thank you both for the hard work you put into these awesome videos.
Aw, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's appreciated.
Honestly, sometimes I forget that people like actually enjoy our content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because it's day to day, it's just him and I. We do basically the same thing we've been doing.
It's so divorced. It's so divorced from everything else.
Yeah.
It's just number go up.
Yeah.
Good. Number go down. Oh no.
Yeah. Can you do that one more time in that camera?
Number go up. Good. Number go down. Oh no. That's what it's like.
That's our lives. Every Friday, we just look at the position of the video in comparison to the last 10. And we're like, please be in the top 5. Please be in the top 5. And if it's not, we're like, what did we do wrong?
If you've ever noticed that the video's title has changed, that's because it's in the top, not in the top 5.
Yeah.
Like for the last 10.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, this is behind schedule.
The Paul LeMay video did so bad by comparison, and it only came out 2 hours later.
Yep. Well, even here's the thing. Like, I don't know what's going on anymore because I'm going to go look at the Paul LeMay video. Here we go. Yeah, it's 9th out of 10. A few days ago, it was 6. A few days before that, it was 4, and then it was 9 and 8, and it's just not doing very well. I don't know what's wrong with it.
You guys didn't like the Alaska stuff.
I thought the Alaska one was fun. But, no, it's, and this is not me, to be very clear, we're not complaining. Like,
yeah.
We're just,
no, we're very grateful
around
to be able to
about
do
it. Yeah.
You can
but it is kind of funny being like, as you're trying to figure out, like, okay, well, why isn't this one doing well? What did I not do right? What did I do differently? What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And sometimes there's just not a good title.
Yeah. What was the one like 2 or 3 weeks ago that we like sat for an hour trying to think of a good title?
It was probably the Mini Han one.
No, it was more recent than that. You're right. That was true. But there was one.
Was it one of the Dennis Martin ones? Eloise Lindsay?
No.
What
was the one before Paul LeMay?
One right before Paul LeMay was one of the Dennis Martin videos. Which, by the way, Part 2 did about 100,000 views better than Part 1. How are these people not confused?
I did see on a couple of the comments on the first one,
Uh-huh.
a lot of people were like, oh, great. Another story about Dennis Martin. So maybe it was an instance where people were like, I've known the story, just tell me your theories.
Fair.
So, anyway, Local Legends Burt Moran for $5. Thank you very much. Says, have you ever heard of / looked into the Vasila? Yeah, it's got to be Vasila. No, Valiska axe murders. I know it's old, but it's an interesting case, and I'm going to go there at the end of the month.
The term came up when we covered the Axeman. Somebody was like, this sounds a lot like the Vasila axe murders, I think. By the way, how did nobody figure out he was taking the trolley?
Were you really the first person to figure that out?
So far as I can tell. I might not be, but I didn't see anybody else who was like, oh, all of these killings were within a couple of blocks of the trolley line. He never brought his weapon with him, and then he disappeared into the night. The trolley makes perfect sense.
Well, so better question. Was there a debate about how he was getting to these places?
Not necessarily about how he was getting to the places, but why he was always taking a weapon from the house he was murdering people in.
Oh, okay, yeah. And the easy
Yeah,
answer
like-
is because he was taking the trolley, and you
Yeah,
can't
and
just
it's
bring
like,
an axe on
you
the
know,
trolley.
these weren't all on the same block. They were all up and down the north-south, like they're basically all up and down a north-south vector, and nobody could figure out where he was coming from. The trolley line.
Yeah.
You know how I know that? Because the other killings that were across the river were right next to the ferry that leads to the trolley line.
Yeah.
He was taking the trolley.
Makes the most sense.
You know, with all the jazz of the situation, I can see how people got it mixed up.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's a lot of jazz.
Totally Not JMO for $5.09. You know me, saying Mutusi. Instead
Yes.
of doing reaction streams, you should do like a personal reading time / Q&A session.
He really just wants me to read Berserk.
Yeah, it really does. IDK, just a thought I had. Plus, I want Berserk. Yeah, there it is.
JMO, have you seen the first page of the novel you handed me?
I think that was his intent of handing it to you.
I'm still recovering from what I saw in those first few pages. Ooh, it's a lot.
I kind of want to take a look at it to figure
I
out.
will show you.
Okay.
Don't.
Yeah, this is gonna be interesting. Anyway, Frank Baxley gave us $20 for nothing in return. Thank you. Ellen the Howler Werewolf Queen for $4.99 says, appreciate the bunny chat. If you have any photos, would you please email them to Mom and I? Yeah, we could.
We
take some.
We took a few pictures, we took some video, so yeah, we can definitely
Well, you made 2 TikToks.
yeah, I
about
made
it,
2
so-
TikToks about it.
Yeah,
I'll see if we can get any pictures. They'll probably still be there tomorrow, so I can try and take some bunny pics.
true.
If we can't find the mom tomorrow, like if it looks like the mom has not been back, we're probably going to take him to an animal rescue.
Or get cages.
Are you going to take care of the bunnies?
No, but we both know 2 people who would.
That's fair. That's fair. Fair point. Amanda just goes, bunnies.
Yep.
From
No,
the corner,
that would
so.
have been the same reaction.
Cat and Amanda are on bunny duty now.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem, because now Cat is slowly adopting a cat. So that might be difficult. Yeah,
The bunnies could live here.
it's true.
There'd be absolutely no issue with that.
No, as long as somebody feeds them once a day.
Yeah. This is becoming entirely too reasonable.
Yeah.
We got to make sure the mom's not back first, though.
Yeah.
I don't want to take the bunnies away from their mom. That
Yeah.
would be cruel.
It would. Yeah. If they keep jumping
If they're
over towards
orphaned,
us-
if they're orphaned bunnies, then we will take care of the bunnies.
if they want to be here, they can stay.
Exactly.
We're not going to capture them.
Yeah, precisely.
But if they choose not to leave
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy our presence, like what happened today when we put them back in the Warren and one came out and hopped over to me and just sat next to me,
Yeah,
if that keeps happening,
Yeah, exactly. Then maybe the bunnies have chosen us.
then maybe the bunnies have chosen us. But
Or bunnies. Yes.
yes. Next is ya boy Bussy for $1.99 saying, Bussy, we'll never get away with it or from it. Vendetta XM for $19.99. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It says, you guys do amazing work. Has your opinions on the 5 cases you couldn't solve changed? Bart, Brandon still puzzle me.
Bart definitely still confuses the hell out of me.
Mm.
I'm trying to remember what all 5 cases were. Brandon, I think there are possibilities. There were a number of farmers who would not allow police to search on their land, which I don't think means that the farmers necessarily did anything to him. I just think that it means there are loose ends. There are places that weren't checked. He was drinking and driving. We know that much. That could explain why he didn't know where he was or why he thought he was in a place that he wasn't. What I will say is it's confusing that he thought he was south of the road when he was north of the road that he was supposed to be south of.
Well, to be fair, not everybody has a good sense of direction.
Yeah, but he would have crossed the road at some point.
Let me be clear. Not everybody has a good sense of direction.
You'd have to have a,
Okay, I got to
downright twisted sense of direction to miss that
this.
one.
Most people don't know cardinal directions.
I know, but it's not even about like the town is on one side of the highway. He was not on that side of the highway.
Amanda, what direction's north? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got wait. Well, this is North Main Street, so I assume either that way or that.
I think I've proven my point.
Generally that way.
No. That's north.
Yeah, North.
Wait, yeah, that is north. This house gets me turned around.
Yeah. Because the sun sets over there.
Yeah, you're right. That is north.
My point exactly.
Okay, but if I was standing outside and you asked me which side of the road I was on, I could
that's
tell
fair.
you.
That's right. But you have a generally better sense of direction than most people.
Okay, fine. I'll accept it.
And I will say the only thing I can think of for Bart is complacency.
I could see medical emergency, but that doesn't explain why his body was gone.
I think considering how experienced he was with large animals, I wouldn't be shocked if a large animal was present and he was a little overconfident. And in the same way that carpenters cut off their thumbs because they're so
Maybe.
used to using a table saw,
But
and they just get.
But there was no evidence of a large predator in the area. At least not
Yeah.
that it had eaten him.
Yeah.
There was wolf scat, but didn't have any parts. And everybody said it wasn't. All the conservationists, all the bear people said it's not a bear.
Yeah, fair.
As for the other ones, I'd have to look up,
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
what they were. But
It is 8:10, so
yes. Is there anything else?
we're near the end, I believe.
Oh, good.
I may have lied. We have a lot more than I thought. Here we go. Emerald Queen for $4.99 says, in case you guys didn't see my second super chat from the last live stream, if I ever abbreviate something to CP, please assume I meant cerebral palsy.
Yes.
We did not see it, and thank you for
No, we
clarifying.
did. I remember commenting on it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, I must have missed
I
it.
mean, like cerebral palsy, and you were like, "Oh, I thought." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I know. I know what you thought."
Oi one Susie for an Australian $10, I must assume. It's just A. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, asking, hey guys, love your work. Have you seen a 2000 series called Kings, loosely, possibly slightly blasphemously, based on said book from the Bible? Ian McShane as Saul even has an episode called Javelin. I mean, if Ian McShane's in it, I'm all in, because he is so cool.
I'd be willing to. I haven't seen it, but I'd take a look.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also don't mind if media is slightly blasphemous as long as it's not pretending to be accurate.
Yeah.
Like if it's not, that's what blasphemy is it's saying something with as if it's factual when it's counter.
If it's in a fictional work, then
Exactly. It's fan fiction. So really quickly though, those cases were Jim McGrogan.
Okay.
Jim, I think it is possible. My question is, why did he not realize he was in the wrong place? Why did he not call for help? Those are my two big questions with Jim McGrogan. As for how he got off course, it is possible that he just took a wrong turn.
Remind me some of the details of
He was the
McGrogan.
skier in Vale, who was found at
right.
the bottom of a cliff,
Yeah.
miles from where he was supposed to be.
Yep.
There was a wrong turn that would have taken him up close to that cliff.
Yep.
The question then is, why did he not realize he was in the wrong place?
Kat attributes that to the overconfidence of surgeons, but that's just her bias coming out.
That also could be it. Bart Schleier, like I said, his I really have no idea, because even if it was a medical emergency, like why was his body not nearby? Why was there no sign of a struggle? Like why was there no sign of him being eaten? The remains they had, I believe, did not show any marks of predation. Weird. Like that's a weird.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Unusual.
how was he that? How were his remains that decomposed after only 2 weeks? Like,
And he had a family too, right? So it
yeah,
wasn't
he
like
did
he
have
was
a
intending to
he
go
had
out there.
a son and a girlfriend, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fred and Dave, Fred Horsey and Dave Hardesty. Fred Hardesty and Dave Horsey. Yeah, that way. One thing that was suggested to me recently that I hadn't considered was that they were tripping.
Sorry, which one was this again?
This was the one up near Nahani, the one from 2004.
Oh,
2005.
yeah.
Yeah, where it was the two men who I think were in like their 50s who there was no explanation of why they left their cabin, but one of them was found with his arm looking burned and the other was found in the river.
Did nobody tell them anything about the area prior to them going off and potentially
They were
getting
familiar
high?
with the area.
Oh, that's probably
Yeah.
part of it. They were like, oh, yeah, it's fine.
Also, I don't know if they were using drugs. Like, as far as I can tell, no drugs were found during the search. It could also be that drugs were found during the search.
It's plausible.
And well, here's the thing. If drugs were found during the search and the family was like, hey, would you mind not mentioning that? I could see it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the family was adamant that the RCMP did not do enough research, did not do enough searching, that they like wrote it off as, just they got lost in the woods.
Gee, I wonder which version I'm heavily inclined to believe in.
Yeah, exactly. I believe that
Yeah.
something weird happened. I don't think it was drugs.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting theory.
yeah,
like
yeah.
it could be that it was drugs and they didn't find any evidence of the drugs, but then there's no evidence of the drugs, so I can't say it was drugs. Garrett Bardsley, no idea. Absolutely no idea. Kid went missing well within earshot, well within eyesight. His fishing pole that he, as far as any of the reporting suggests, his fishing pole, he was carrying it. One of the cameras is black. Probably yours.
Oh, it's mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His fishing pole was nowhere to be found. There was no blood. There was no sign of a struggle. There was no scream. There was no remains anywhere near him. Just nothing. So I don't know. And then Stacey Aris. A lot of people have suggested that the 70-something-year-old man had something to do with it. Just timing-wise, there's no way that he could have gotten her to a place where she would have been completely invisible to searchers within the time period between her last being seen and the search being launched. So just not that. I don't know where Aiden went, but we only have, let's grab one more and then head over.
Okay.
So I'm going to see what is on here. Totally Not JMO did say for 527, the milk is the champion of light. When you drinketh of it, the herald of darkness will be revealed. If you don't, you'll be lost in a never-ending night. Did you mean herald as in Herald? Or did you intend to type herald as in Harold Hardrada? Or Harold Godwinson?
We've never been this close on camera before.
That's true.
We're never beating the allegation.
Never. Also, Barrel Racer 12 for 2048. Thank you. Said, I've had a lot of shit happen since the start of school year beyond just a rough start. I've lost 2 students, 1 to gun. I feel bad about laughing now. Hoo boy. Okay. I've had a lot of shit happen to me since the start of the school year beyond just a rough start. I've lost 2 students, 1 to gun violence, 1 to cancer, and I wanted to say thanks. Your content has really helped. Well, thank you. Also, I am so very sorry. Which camera are we at now?
That one, I'll go to yours.
Okay. I am so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that's...
I can't even imagine how that feels. I hope you're doing okay. I hope you're getting the help that you need. I'm glad that we're able to provide something of a distraction, but I do feel for you, and I hope that you're able to get the support and to recover.
Yeah, that's
tough.
Yeah, overall, that's a horrible and terrible situation. We're glad that anything we do is able to bring any form of lightness to your life. A main reason why we have stuck with this as much as we have is because we care about what we do, and we are graciously reminded that it does matter to people, and we are very humbled that that's ever true. So for what it's worth, thank you for sharing that, because it's important to us to know that we're helpful, and it's also good to know that that is the case, and we are very grateful that we have that effect. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, is there anything else in there that's super big or relevant? I see a couple of memberships. Thank you, guys.
Yep. JMO finally got a PC.
Critical information is left out of a report. What's that say?
Critical information is left out of a report / altered, but was known correctly before the report came out. That's lying, and there's no good reason to lie.
It's fair.
Ellen and Harry, the Werewolf Queen.
What we were talking about with some of the source materials.
Bandit is confirming my idea that the A is Australian $5.
Nice.
Because he's saying, "G'day from Australia. You guys doing amazing research and work. Would you ever consider doing covering in a few Aussie missing persons cases?"
I would love to, but we have the same problem with Australia that we have with Canada.
Yeah.
They do not want to tell you anything. I can see what I can dig into, though, because I understand Australia does have some very weird disappearances.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked considering the land that it is. James Knapp is saying that apparently Missing Enigma said on his Patreon that he's going to go to the Garrett Bardsley campsite. So we should have him on after he does that.
I wanted to have him on to talk about Dennis too, so that works.
Yep. Vampire from Pluto for 5 is asking if we will ever cover the alien phantom cat phenomenon. Surprisingly,
I'm
real.
gonna need to look up what that is.
And he said bonus if it's a collab with Roanoke Tales. So I guess he's talked about it.
Probably make that happen.
Yep. Should I be a silly guy and sub for the highest tier on Patreon? Love you guys. Get me through a lot of long nights at work. From Evan Young for $5.
Thank you. I mean, we wouldn't mind if you did, but
Only do it if you can afford it.
and also if you want the hoodie, you can get. I'm pretty sure that we have hoodie versions of our bunker stuff, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do.
There is a redacted media hoodie from Bunker.
Yeah.
That's only like probably $50 or $60. So I would go that route. If you want to support us, awesome. Thank you. We would appreciate the Patreon tier. But if you just want a sweatshirt and you want to show your support, then that is the cheaper way to do it.
Fair enough. Sexy calendar when is
I expected to be more sexy after Alaska. I got less sexy after Alaska somehow.
Yep.
That chili was too good.
It was too good.
So
too good.
I have to sexify myself. I'm working on it. I have begun, kind of being more careful about my calories. Amanda and I went for a hike yesterday. I told myself this week I am doing no alcohol, no fast food, no soda. I did have like half a cider while I was sitting at Molly's, but I felt that counted more as juice.
Yeah, I plan on having a cider after this. So
Yeah. No hard liquor for the week.
fair, smart.
Soft liquor. But okay, the Birds game.
Yeah, I know.
Birds game.
A couple more worth that.
Fine.
So Ali Simone for $6.17. You know I love the specificity. Saying, hey, so happy to finally catch you guys while you were live. Your videos got me through 4 a.m. shifts alone at work for the last few months, so thanks.
Good Lord, where are you people working?
Yeah.
Although I was a barista and it wasn't too different from that.
Yeah.
And bakeries.
Yeah. But technically, you work overnight.
That's true. I just don't think about it because I go to bed at 4 instead of wake up at 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
And then Funtime323 for $4.99 says, found you guys from unsubscribe and been enjoying the channel ever since. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last one is Wyatt Gilliams, I believe, for $5, saying, a few months ago I asked what you thought of automatons in history, wasn't talking about Helldivers, and still kind of curious about what you think of them.
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting little fad. It was it's not true artificial intelligence, but it was an early form of robotics. For those who don't know what automatons were, there's a great book called The Invention of Hugo Cabret. I can't remember who it's by off the top of my head, but phenomenal book centered around an automaton. To me, it seems like one of those things that was, a cool set piece, a cool little novelty. And I think it's kind of a harbinger of the fact that people were looking forward to the idea of artificial intelligence. And of course, the people who saw an automaton didn't know how it worked at the time. It's pretty obvious to us now. You look at it and you're like, oh, there's a whole bunch of mechanics in there, and it's probably just on a set kind of thing that it does. But no, I think that, as a concept, they were cool. They were a cool form of entertainment. I think they're awesome still as museum pieces. But I don't have strong opinions on them beside that I think that they were a cool form of entertainment and probably one of the most intricate pre-computer technologies when you think about it.
I think the Scorsese movie Hugo is a really cool documentation through fiction of automatons and that whole era.
Is that not based off The Invention of Hugo Cabret?
No, it is 100%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it.
Yeah. It's a fun
I
movie.
didn't know that was Scorsese.
If I'm remembering correctly.
Well.
Yep. Yeah, Scorsese, 2011.
It didn't feel like a Scorsese film.
No, it really didn't.
Like, it's way more CGI heavy.
You would be shocked, actually. Have you ever seen how much CGI is in Wolf of Wall Street?
It all looked so real that I didn't think about it. It wasn't the cartoony kind of CGI.
Yeah, if you see the behind the scenes of Wolf of Wall Street, it's like actually shocking.
I can't imagine what you would need to use CGI for in that film.
Almost every set piece. Oh yeah, even remember the beach house? Not real. That was CGI. Almost all.
Why?
Because the external shots, the wide shots, they couldn't find a house they wanted, so they had to create it. And then instead of shooting on location in the Hamptons, they built the set and then worked on the set with a bunch of green screen around it to then put the Hamptons behind the house.
I get why Ian McKellen was crying in that one picture.
Yeah, I mean, hey, sometimes that's how.
Can we make a
it works.
pact right now that we will go to every length possible to not use CGI?
Yep. On the drive home from the shore yesterday, while Kat had her earbuds in listening to music because my engine is so loud that you can't speak when you're on the highway in that truck, I was thinking about...
You make choices.
I do. I really do. It's horrible choices. But nonetheless, I had an idea for... I've had an idea for a film for a while that involves, shockingly enough, trains. But I was thinking about how you could film a model train to make it
Ooh.
look full scale.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about what different camera technologies you could use to kind of like, if you used a certain size sensor
Yeah.
for full size stuff, and then you used a larger sensor camera for the miniature stuff.
Mhm.
So that way the level of detail
Mhm.
looked the same.
And you can always still do a little bit. It's okay to do a little CGI, like sparks on the rails. and
Oh,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
but-
Well, add
Yeah.
blemishes and stuff. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, there's a lot of details I want to do for
All
that
right.
purpose.
Well, there is an Eagles game on that we have got to go watch. Also, I'm sure Kellen is waiting for us.
100%.
So, everybody, we have got to go, but this has been real. It has been great. And, I will see those of you who watch the streaming channel probably tomorrow night. And those who do not, we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.